What up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Black Top Podcast. We're two-manning it today. Christian had to take care of some things, but Ruben, man, how you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. It's been a good time.
No
Busy
doubt.
as usual, but glad there's still basketball to enjoy.
No doubt. Well, I mean, to be honest, is it really that good about? No, I'm kidding. This is definitely the dog days of the off season, but you know, we're striving, we're thriving. Let's get right into it. So, a lot's happened since our last episode. Fred VanVleet secured the biggest contract for an undrafted player ever. There's been a lot of stuff going on. Instead of just kind of recapping all the free agency stuff, because I feel like we kind of missed out on that point of relevancy, let's just look at some of the best remaining free agents. Whether it's you want to give them praise for they should be on a team or even suggest a team they should be on. Let's just start that conversation. So number one, a guy that we all hold dear to our hearts, Christian Wood.
Yeah.
I don't
It's
understand why
insane
this
how he's
man
not
does
on a
not
team
have a
yet.
job. I think Dallas definitely screwed him because I think their whole thinking behind it was like, we'll give this guy just a little bit of cheddar, in terms of being in the offense and all that. And then we'll expect him to sign for less. And obviously he's not going back to Dallas. And now what a lot of teams have as their last kind of imprint is this guy kind of being meh to an extent.
Yeah. I don't know what. It's too bad. I think a lot of it also had to do with the fact that he has a hard time staying on the floor. I think that's really difficult to pay a guy the kind of money that his talent might warrant, but it's really hard to justify giving him the bag necessarily.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be an important year for him. I don't think he's going to be signing for anything more than the mid-level exception. And there aren't very many teams that can offer that at the moment if they haven't already used it, especially top contenders.
Yeah.
But I mean, from what I understand or what I read is that teams have only offered him up to the minimum. So, I mean, if he signs for the minimum, then he has a boatload of choices in terms of where he can go. But I'm hearing LA, the Lakers. So,
Ooh, to fill out that last spot. I mean, yeah,
yeah.
because his only competition would really be Jackson Hayes. And I think when you look at that team, oh, that's kind of nice because he could be a bit of like a six man. And, Austin Reeves is obviously developing into a point guard. You got a young Jalen Hood-Schifino coming into the mix. I like that fit. For me personally, though, I kind of like him on the Heat. I think if you let him run more of the power forward, which I think is his natural position, you have Bam to really still hold it down there. Christian Wood at times, I think for him, it's just a matter of effort when it comes to the defensive end because he can definitely play D. But we saw with Dallas, I think a lot of that had to do with just the whole kind of environment he was in to where he wasn't able to put his full best foot forward. But I mean, we all know how the Miami Heat run their ship. It's probably one of, if not the best, like tightly run ships in the league. I think putting him in that kind of culture, I think that could set him up for, potentially getting a long-term contract with next year's free agency for sure.
Yeah, I think a team that should take a flyer with it on him, and you'll be surprised possibly at this team. I think a really good fit is Denver at the
Oh,
minimum.
that's
I think that is
interesting.
a really good fit considering the rotation players that they lost this free
Mm.
agency, especially with Uncle Jeff Green and Bruce Brown, obviously. And I think he shores up that forward center rotation in the
Yeah,
back
I,
line.
I think
And that's something
he,
they didn't have last year too, right?
no
So
doubt.
I mean that's a really nice fill-in piece for them.
Yeah, I think it kind of covers a bit for the fact that you're having Christian Braun fill that role that Bruce Brown's doing, which not to say that he can't fill it, but I think there is going to be a little bit of a adjustment period. But
Yeah.
yeah, I like that fit. I just think I think the Heat and then who was the team you mentioned earlier, the Lakers. I feel like those give him more of an avenue to more playing time because I think playing behind Jokic, we saw in the playoffs, Zeke Naji or DeAndre
Yeah.
Jordan didn't get any burn. So I think I like that in terms of him. I don't want to use the word ring chasing, but just to try to be in the best situation possible to like win. I like that. But I think when you're looking at PT, which I think is something he's desperately looking for at this point, I think the Lakers or the Heat are a good one. Next one I got on my list, PJ Washington. I mean, when you're looking at teams that have money, it's very sparse to say the least. But I mean, I think you'd probably be in agreement here. I think he should just stay with the Hornets. I don't know why a deal hasn't materialized. Maybe it's like
Yeah.
he doesn't like the number he got given and he wants to see what he's worth on the open market. But, you know, I like what he contributes to that team. Him and Miles Bridges has always been a very like neck and neck battle with Miles obviously taking that jump last year, but we all know how that kind of turned out. So I like what PJ brings to the Hornets. I mean, it's a guy that's versatile, able to play 4 through 5. And I forgot what stat it was, but I think he was like top 5 or something when you looked at guys who both initiated PNRs and were like the screeners on PNRs. So there's definitely some versatility in there. And, continuity is a big thing we always talk about. And obviously being on the Hornets for that long, it could only contribute to that.
Well, I think he's a restricted free agent, right? So like he hasn't
Yeah.
really signed an offer sheet anywhere else. I'm not sure what the other teams are that have cap space remaining. I know Houston is up. So I mean, I think in terms of the offer sheets around the league, it's going to be very, very like it's going to be very tight in terms of the options that he has to sign with.
Mm,
And I think that plays to the Hornets' favor, obviously, so they can sign him to a team-friendly deal. Yeah, I think he stays in Charlotte. It's the best fit too, right? Like
no
I think
doubt.
right away he obviously was an impact player last year. I mean, with just to an extent. I mean, we can only say an impact player, and you're like one of the worst teams in the league, but he's obviously a contributor. Like he's a contributing basketball player at the NBA level, and I think he has an opportunity to grow again this year. But yeah, there's not a better fit for him. It's interesting though, like PJ Washington, like you said, he's like kind of an anomaly player. He's kind of tantalizing in the sense that he's got so much ability, but he hasn't yet realized it. And granted, he's only been in the league for what 3 years
I think
now,
this
four
is
years.
his
So
his fourth, fifth year maybe.
yeah, so I mean, it hasn't materialized in the sense, but also his lack of opportunity is probably one of the reasons why that he hasn't gotten a fair shake. But we'll see. I think this is a big season for him. Obviously,
Mm,
like I think he's one of those players that should also bet on himself. Taking from Fred, because if he has a big year and he signs his team friendly deal for long term, right, he's going to be playing at a bargain when he probably could make a lot more money when he hits the
no
open
doubt.
market. So I mean, like you said it best. So we'll see what happens.
Mm. I'll let you take the lead on this one. Kelly Oubre Jr. What do you think when
Yeah,
you
this
hear
is
that name?
see. This is I kept saying I wanted this guy in Sacramento. All right, and
Mm.
like, I definitely think. I know he come back at the end of this past season. He struggled with injury a lot, if I'm not
He
mistaken.
was cooking when LaMelo was out, but then yeah, he went out for a
Yeah,
bit. I think when he got back, his role kind of got diminished. So I think he
yeah,
kind of regressed back to his kind of mean, if that makes sense.
yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting. I think a team that would definitely love his services. I mean, if I'm not taking into account like cap space, but a team like Cleveland would absolutely love a guy
I
like
would have
them. I know
liked
they
them to
made the
sign him more than like some of the guys they picked yet.
that they picked up, right? But I think they've had a pretty good offseason overall. But Kelly Oubre, I mean, yeah, I guess it depends on the figures that he was looking for. Sacramento was a team that I obviously had mentioned. I think a team that needs some sort of shot creation and playmaking. I mean, I would even say as far as Toronto, I would love to see him on Toronto personally. Um, so there's a few ball clubs like another team that I'm thinking of is Memphis. I
Mm.
think a team like Memphis would love his services off the bench, considering that Jaw's gonna be out for 25 games. You're gonna require a lot of Desmond Bain
Yeah,
to do a lot of
you
shot
don't really
creation.
want to rely on like Jake LaRavia and David Roddy as like your firm backbone of that. Yeah.
And if you look at their perimeter play in terms of their swingmen, who on that team is a real shot creator?
I'm not gonna lie. I don't even know if they really have that because you know
That's
I
what I'm saying.
I think even fully healthy, I don't know if we really call Ja a shot creator. I think he's more drive and kick.
No.
Desmond Bain, I think, has the ability, but I think the negative wingspan negates it to an extent. I mean, he's most effective when he's catching and shooting, but when it comes to creating off the bounce, he can do it, but I wouldn't say it's part of his skill set. So yeah, I agree. I don't know if there's really necessarily like a bucket on that team, I guess.
Exactly, and
Mm.
that's what Kelly Oubre does. I think he's a really good piece for a solid contender right now, especially at his level at this point in his career. He's at what 27, 28 years old.
Yeah, right about to hit his
So,
prime.
so yeah, we'll see. I think he definitely can add a lot to a contender. I don't see him signing with a young team moving forward unless he picks up the bag somewhere. But again, cap space is an issue right now, and not a lot of options for him.
Yeah, for me, I think just like Christian Wood, I like the idea of him being on the Heat. Like you have a lot
I
of
was gonna
these,
say the Heat.
yeah,
I
you have a
was gonna
lot of
say
these
my Heat.
guys that are able to stretch the floor, but just on the defensive end, they're not fully fulfilling that 3 and D role. And the thing with Kelly is he can play defense when he wants to, but I think just like with Christian Wood, I think that's the. It's crazy now. I think to say today, the effort's a skill, and that's not to say that Uber is like lazy or anything like that. But you can tell there are guys who are only really engaged if they're playing like meaningful basketball to an extent. I think Kelly Oubre is like a little bit of an example of that. But I mean, the size he brings, the versatility he brings, I love to see that. I just want to see him on a team that's not the Hornets. I think
Mhm.
these past few years, really even his whole career, we've never really seen him in like a prime position to be a part of any team that's really on anything. I feel, you know.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Hmm.
I, you know, open up the floodgates. Open up
Honeys,
the
yeah.
floodgates.
Let the man. I swear he's the only guy I've ever heard to get a technical for trying to arouse a ref.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know about that stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
but
And I mean, off of that, I mean, I don't know if we could really, there's guys like Io DeSumo, Jalen Noel, T.J. Warren, Will Barton, R.J. Hampton, just a lot of mid.
yeah, a lot of
I don't know if it
a
really
lot of
warrants a full. Yeah, a lot of like your
rotation
ninth,
players.
10th guy. Guys that I think have the ability to just out of nowhere give you 30, but then outside of that, a bunch of 5 2 and 1s, 7 2 and 1 with 3 turnovers, stuff like that. So I guess let's hop
Yeah.
into this. When you look at totality, because obviously, like we just mentioned, a lot of teams have spent their money. We're seeing a lot of these draft picks playing in the summer league. We're all gonna hit y'all with a couple superlatives, Ruben. Take these however you want, rank them however you want to.
Mm.
Who would you say has gone from worst to first? And
Worst to
and I
first.
say take that how you want, as in like it doesn't just have to be like they've gone from borderline contender to champion favorite. It could even be like, not to sway your mind or anything, guys who or teams that have gone from like the depths to like now they're gonna be like playing meaningful basketball.
It's a very good question. Hmm. Give me yours, DJ.
Sure. Okay. So mine, I think the first one will go conventional in the sense of like they've gone from teetering to now I think they could like be the top dogs. I think it's obviously the Lakers. I mean, Rob
Yeah.
Pelinka is a genius. Rob Pelinka is really, you know, he took the GM, the Russell Westbrook thing happened, moved on from that, and I think you've really just seen him like really work with what's been available to him. I mean, Austin Reeves, you got him for as much you could sign him for, which is great to see. You didn't have to match anything crazy. I think D'Lo you got on, I would even say a good deal, but it's a tradable deal. I was listening to the JJ Redick, and Tommy Alter with what was the dude's name? Brian Windhorst. He was talking about
Brand
how,
Horse, yeah.
yeah, they don't like to evaluate contracts on like dollar amount or anything like that. It's like if you can trade that deal. And I think what you were able to get D'Lo on, I think it was like 2 years, 29 or whatever it is. It's a tradable contract. So I think that's a big thing. And then you sign these guys to a lot of, flyer deals. Cam Reddish, obviously, I'm pulling for that man. But I think you were able to retain a lot of the incoming talent that showed bright spots for this playoff run, and now you're adding again guys like Jalen Hood Shafino. You know, Max Christie's really looked like he could be like a
He's gonna be a real
borderline.
thing.
Yeah,
I think he's gonna be a real player.
yeah, I think he's definitely gonna like get solid rotational minutes this year. And then Maxwell Lewis is a guy I'm still very high on. I don't think he's really shown like that he can be full rotation this first year, but he's a guy that has a lot of potential there. So I think you just look at what the Lakers have been able to do with the roster they had last year that was kind of directionless in the sense of not only just style of play, but you know, you have a couple young guys and then you got a bunch of aging guys. Now you got a good mix here to where I think you can still be competitive, but then you got guys like Jalen Hood Shafino and all those rookies that are in this incoming class and Max Christie who I think really have a chance to contribute. So that's my first
I
one.
like that.
The other one, worst to first. This is in the sense of like they were outside the play-in even to now. I think they're not a lock, but they should definitely be fighting for top six this year. It's the Indiana Pacers. I mean,
Yeah, I was gonna say the
yeah, the
Pacers is one.
pace. Since you said
Yeah.
them, I'll let you take over. Then, how are you feeling about the
No,
Pacers?
I think they're great. I think if it wasn't for Halliburton getting out or getting injured, I think this team would at least have been a play-in team. First
Mm,
of all,
me too.
um, this team is pretty damn good. They're stacked with a lot of young talent, and I think they showed that Halliburton leading the way and re-signed for a massive contract, which I think is going to be awesome for that franchise moving forward. We talk about that team, everyone knows about the young studs they have: Nemhard, Matherin, um,
Jarris
off the
Walker's
top of
looked
my
like
head,
a
Just
dog.
they just
Yeah,
picked him up. So I mean, like obviously this team is really solid, and then they pick up the champion Bruce Brown, right? If I'm not mistaken, they also they traded for Obi Toppin, right? I
yeah.
believe they traded for Obi Toppin. So I mean, and he was solid in the playoffs last year when he got time, when he
Oh
wasn't
yeah.
stuck in Tibbs' doghouse. So I mean, this team has a really good rotation. Granted, if they can stay healthy, I think this is a really competitive basketball team.
My thoughts exactly. I mean, I think the thing I'm most excited for is to just see this like two-headed defensive monster with Jarris Walker and Miles
Miles
Turner
Turner.
because I think it's essentially what we would see if Bam played with a real center. Because I think Jarris is kind of translatable in that sense that he's 6'7", 6'8", but he looks like he can guard all five positions from like just his tenacity, his ability. He's got sneaky quickness, I think, for a big guy. And then when you pair that with one of the best shot blockers in Miles Turner, I think that could be a really big plus. Rick Carlisle's gonna love that. And then just Obi Toppin, because I mean, you know, no secret, was definitely in Tibbs's doghouse. Whether he
Yeah.
deserved that, debatable, but I don't think he's ever really gotten a fair shake at all through these first 3 years or so. And then when you look like when he was coming out of Dayton, he looked like he was one of the most polished guys. He's, you don't go top 10 in a draft and be like a multi-year guy just off the fact that you got potential. I think there's a lot of like really grounded translatable skills that he hasn't been able to fully utilize. And when you look at, you know, this Pacers team, it's very much I think it's open season when it comes to that starting power forward position. And I think when you got two guys at the level of Jarris Walker and Obi Toppin, iron sharpens iron. I'm excited to see what they do. Now that Halliburton's got this contract, you kind of lock it in. I think they're just ready to go. And I don't know if you heard the most recent episode of Podcast P, but you know our Canadian boy Benedict Mathurin. I hope he plays the World Cup, and I think that'll be a great
Yeah.
experience. And just seeing his further development, and just he has all the tools to really mesh everything together. But now I think you're gonna see these next couple years of them starting to kind of be in that, you know, 2011, 2012 Warriors style to, you know, they're starting to put things together. There's a good nucleus there, and now it's just a matter of like really building it up.
Yeah. PG called Benedict Mathurin Dwayne Wade, or likened him to Dwayne Wade, at least in that podcast. So I mean,
Mm. Do you
there's a
like that
lot of.
comparison? I don't know. I don't know.
I think I understand it because of the fact that What D Wade was the pure athleticism,
They're both
and
very
he paired.
wiry guys. Yeah.
I think what was great about his comparison is like if you look at things from a triangle, it's like these are your top skills, and then your farther one is the kind of thing that kind of loops you all together. And Benedict Mathurin is obviously a super confident guy. He's got the athleticism, he's got ability, but he's developing that in between game, which makes him such an explosive scorer, especially at his age and even at his level. And that's what gave Dwayne Wade kind of that second level in terms of reaching superstardom. So I like it in that sense. I don't know if I would say aesthetically that they're the same
Yeah,
player, but I
I
mean,
think you hit it there perfectly because I mean, one's 6'3" and the other 6'7". But
yeah,
I think when you're
yeah,
looking at the intangibles, I definitely agree with that. I mean, man, we got another boy in the mix, man. We got
yeah.
another Canadian. You know what I'm saying?
He's gonna be real. He's gonna be a real
Oh
solid,
yeah,
solid guy in the
oh
future.
yeah.
Um, One other team that I wanted to say the Rockets, but I don't know if that's a team that'll make it in the West considering. But I definitely think Dallas is gonna be back in the mix this year. I
Yeah,
think I
I
think they're gonna be back in
really
the
like
mix.
what Dallas has done this offseason.
Yeah, Dante Exum, Seth Curry. I mean, I also wouldn't sleep on the Rashawn Holmes pickup because Rashawn Holmes was stuck in the doghouse. But prior to this past season, I mean, that guy was a double machine.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a really solid center, and he was highly touted last season, in free agent. Excuse me, in free agency. So they re-signed Dwight Powell, obviously Kyrie Irving. Um, so it'll be interesting. I know that they are also still on the block looking for other potential pickups, whether that's free agency or trade. Still have quite a few assets that teams might be looking forward to. Other contenders in a different conference might be looking at the services of Tim Hardaway. So I think Dallas is going to be back in the mix. And when Kyrie and Luka were on the floor together, that was a very good tandem. And so obviously resetting the players they did opened up a lot more shooting. um, add to their team defensively. I almost feel like I'm missing a transaction here,
Oh,
but
not gonna lie, bro. Really big one you're missing. Grant Williams.
yeah, Grant Williams.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, Grant Williams. So that's gonna be awesome because he's a solid 3-and-D player. I think what they missed with Dorian Finney-Smith, they're gonna get some of that back with him. And I would have said even I would have given them an A+ if they were able to come home with the Matisse Thybulle signing,
Oh,
but
bro, yeah.
obviously Portland matched the offer sheet. So yeah, I think that what they did this offseason is incredible, considering their lack of assets and
Mm.
considering like how things look like if Kyrie Irving wasn't going to resign, like who knows what would happen. Um, but that rotation is looking really nice. Seth Curry is their third
Mm.
guard. That's looking really nice. They still have that young stud Josh Green. I really like what they've done.
Yeah, and just to touch on it, the prospects they have. I mean, Jaden Hardy looks like a
Jaden
stud.
Hardy, yeah,
Definitely looking like another one of these Maverick second round guard picks that could be like one of them ones. And I think I'm excited to see what he does. I feel like he's kind of looking like a six man when you look at their rotation. But I think outside of that, Derek Lively, I think he's a guy he's the perfect center to pair alongside Luca. Big body, catches lobs,
catch
and
lobs.
has the ability to stretch the floor. Whether it translates, a whole nother thing. And then Olivier Maxence Prosper. You know, we all love him because of like his not only because he's Canadian, but that whole comparison of being with Dorian Finney-Smith. And I think like how you touched on a little bit earlier, they're one Tim Hardaway Jr. trade away from like I think really putting the cherry on top of this off season. Wherever he goes to, I think they just really need. I think they just needs like a solid like 4 to 3 because I think Grant Williams you're bringing in to be your four, but he's also like a
Yeah.
little slightly undersized, I would say, for to be your full time four. So I think being able to bring in a guy who you can swap the minutes with here and there kind of thing, be able to have Grant Williams running a bit of a three at a times and being able to have a guy who could maybe even be a small ball five. I can't think of like I think a guy like Nas Reed off the top of my head. Obviously, I don't think that's something that's attainable, but somebody that's in that kind of mold, I think is what they're missing for their
Yeah.
team.
Yeah. Well, he just extended with Minnesota, but it's like I know I
Yeah.
get what you're trying to say. It would be nice if Dallas could pick up Kelly Oubre or something like that. I think that would
Oh,
also be
that
a
would
really
be
nice
dope. That
addition.
would be
But
dope.
he's not signing for the minimum, not that I know of. So
Not unless it's like nobody's giving him anything.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
I think Dallas has went from like this could be really really bad to like okay, this is solid.
I
Like
like what they're working with. Yeah,
yeah,
I wouldn't say that this is a top 4 team, but they're certainly back in the mix with this, assuming they
definitely.
stay healthy.
I think they can make another sneaky run like how they did to the conference finals a couple years ago. No doubt.
Yeah,
If everything
yeah.
goes right. All
If
right.
everything goes right, that I think that's the one team where everything has to go right
Yeah, yeah,
this
good
year.
point. All right. Who would you say is like an underrated signing slash acquisition? So it doesn't have to necessarily strictly be a free agent, whether it was, you know, a draft or, draft, a trade, whatever it may be.
Mm.
So I think this was
Okay,
the off season for it because there weren't a lot of like
yeah.
top guys.
I think, well, off the top of my head, one of them, I'll think about the others, but definitely one of them it has to be Gabe Vincent to the Lakers. I did not foresee that coming.
Mm,
Gabe Vincent to the Lakers, I think, was really underrated in the sense that we all thought the Lakers were going to have a hard time retaining all their free agents. They did,
plus
and
more.
then they hit a home run with Gabe
Yeah,
Vincent, and they really solidified that guard rotation. And between Gabe Vincent, AR, and D'Lo,
that's so
that is a
nasty.
really
They're
nice guard.
four deep at the guard position.
I don't remember a time that LeBron's ever played with a more deep guard rotation in his entire career. I mean, you can say Chalmers, Dwayne Wade, and Norris Cole, but like we're talking about three guys who have established themselves in this league. At one point, D'Lo was an all-star.
Yeah.
Gabe Vincent is a starting point guard in this league. AR is clearly going to be is already a starting caliber player in this league, and who has made quite the name for himself after his playoff run. Three established players. I mean, that's different. I mean, I think this is the best LeBron has played with in terms of a guard rotation his entire career.
Yeah, I mean, I would even go as far to say this might be like his best roster damn near ever.
Ooh, that's a fiery take.
It is because I mean,
That's a fiery
who's
take.
you would probably compare it with what the 2013
13.
because
Yeah, 13 Heat.
that team was what that's Rio, Wade, Bosch, LeBron, and then Battier, Ray Allen,
Mike Miller.
Mike Miller.
Mike Miller. Um, who else did they have on that squad back
Bird,
then?
I think Birdman was on that squad, low key.
Oh, Birdman. Birdman. Birdman.
My
Birdman.
goodness.
Birdman.
He needs to be on. I
Wow.
I think he's gonna be on an episode of Podcast B. But not to get back into it. I think that team I think was not necessarily top heavy, but you have a solid 10 versus I think with the Lakers you have even like a solid 11 through 12 because if we're looking at it, you know, AR-15, D'Lo, Gabe Vincent, Jalen Hood-Schifino. That's just the guards.
Yeah.
And then you're throwing up to Rui, LeBron, AD. Jackson Hayes is kind of a question mark on there. Torian Prince, that was the one I think could also be like an underrated signing.
Yeah.
Just to go off of
That was
all
a
of
much
that.
needed one too. That
Yeah,
was a much needed one
yeah.
too.
I think Torian Prince, he's always been the best when he's playing alongside like when he can just spot up and play D. I think that's his bread and butter, and he's definitely going to be able to do that with LA. And I think I would say it's debatable, but I think I would slightly lean towards on paper. I think we'll obviously see what happens in like the actual season. But what if I'm just looking at like team for team? If I'm looking at guys who could not only just space the floor, but create for themselves to an extent. I think both D'Lo and AR are capable of that. Hood Shafino, maybe we'll see. He's someone I'm very high on, but I think when you just look at the Heat team, there were a lot of shot makers, but outside of I think LeBron and D Wade, there weren't a lot of playmakers. that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I think, man, Torian Prince, man, that's such a great set. Because if you think about the forward rotation last year, the LeBron and Rui.
It was kind of just that. Who's
Exactly.
like the
Now you got LeBron,
yeah?
Rui, and
Who's like
Torian.
the
I mean,
third guy in that?
well, it was like, was it Vando? I mean, Malik Beasley was the guy who played the 2 and the 3.
True.
But that's
Beasley,
what I'm saying
Beasley
is
didn't even
like
really. Troy Brown was in that. Oh man,
Troy
that's
Brown,
poopy.
yeah,
Oh my
yeah. I actually
goodness.
forgot about that. But yeah, I mean that's a hell of a rotation. Like this, if you just named it, like this team is like 12 deep, man.
That's what I think. That's one thing I heard. Okay, because can we look at here? Sorry, because I completely forgot. If we're just going off the projected starters, because I like to use word projection because I don't know if D'Lo starts, but
Yeah.
D'Lo, Austin Reeves, LeBron James, Jared Vanderbilt, Anthony Davis, Gabe Vincent, Torian Prince, Rui Hachimura, Jackson Hayes, if you want to throw that in there, Jalen Hood-Schifino, Cam Reddish, Torian
All
Prince.
right.
That's a solid team right there.
That's a very good rotation. My goodness. I mean, the fact that I think the important thing is that you have 2 at every slot.
Yeah.
Like that's key. Is you've got 2 at every slot, and I think they've got
And you
that.
have like I think two starter levels. You don't have like two bum or
Hmm.
one of them kind of bummy.
Well, it's like at center, yeah, AD, Jackson Hayes at the forward. You got Vando, you got Torian. I guess at 3, you can say LeBron, Rui, and I guess you could say Gabe, AR, and D'Lo between those 3. I mean, who would be the backup 2? I guess it depends. Jalen Shafino, you could say.
Or even Max Christie can get some minutes there.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Max Christie. I mean, it's a nice team, man. That's a nice team, and I think it's really important that they stacked up on their rotation players, considering
Yeah.
LeBron going into his 21st year. So,
Yeah, I
um,
think you can afford to really rest LeBron and AD for this upcoming season.
yeah, we see a lot of what is that? Um, load management,
Mm,
load management.
yeah.
Um, I gotta say, I want to add to this, like aside from the Lakers, I think the entire offseason was super underrated for Phoenix.
Yeah, I think just given all the assets they had, I think they did what they could have done. Now, that's not to say that Keita Bates Diop is going to win you a playoff series or a game,
No,
but I think just having somebody there that has a little bit of experience is what you needed. Because, I mean, I think the biggest deal was obviously Eric Gordon taking that minimum. And then with the player option effectively acting as a no trade clause, he's a guy I think could be labeled as a winner for free agency as a whole. But I agree. I mean, who else can we? I'll look up their depth chart. Well, you
I
just
mean,
explain. I mean, how are you feeling about this Phoenix
yeah,
team now?
Yuta Watanabe. I mean, he was one of the top shooters in the league last year. Keita Bates Diop, like we said, he's not gonna be a playoff one. He's not gonna be the X factor in a
but
playoff
but
series.
but there's him and one of the greatest power forwards of all time that he shares a record with.
Who's that?
Tim Duncan. I actually he might have beat Tim because there was that. Do you remember that one game where he shot like a perfect? I'll Google it. He was like 12 for 12 or something. Let me. Do,
Yeah.
do you remember that last year?
No, I don't.
I might have not been last. For sure. Yeah, here's the way he went. He put up 30, and he went 11 for 11 on the field.
Jesus.
Yeah, 30,
Looks like he can win
30
you
and
a game.
7.
I mean, that's a good signing. Chimezi Metu, that's a really solid signing
That could be
coming from
that's an
Sacramento.
underrated one if I'm looking at it. Yeah, for sure.
Drew Eubanks, and don't forget Eric Gordon.
Mm.
I mean, Eric Gordon is a really good signing for with him off the bench. I think Eric Gordon was also thrusted into a Clippers team that required him to pull on a lot more weight than he was expecting, considering the injuries. So I think Eric Gordon coming off the bench, man, it's gonna be so fun to watch. Like the Suns this year, but out of all their underrated signings, which I thought overall they've had a great offseason considering what, how limited they were.
Yeah.
You still have a major hole in point guard. Like, if they're really going to trust Cameron Payne to run point guard for them all season long,
Well,
they got
I
some
feel like
issues.
you would expect DB or Brad to be the main point guard, but I do
Yeah, I
think
just don't like them
like
as a main
I think the
playmaker.
first I think how I see their season going, I think the first 15 to 20 games is going to be rough. If I'm being real,
Yeah.
you got an unclear point guard, as well as you got the question of if Frank Vogel is going to be able to get DeAndre Ayton to buy in, which I think he can to an extent, but you just have those two. You have your two most important positions as like two massive question marks. Where's the guard distribution going to come from, and where's your backline,
Yeah.
your defense going to come from? Because, KD, as amazing as he was on defense last year, we're not really looking for him to be
No,
like the anchor.
please don't. Please
100%.
don't ask him to do that. Please don't ask him to do that, because Phoenix, you're not gonna have a long season with him.
Yeah,
That's
and I think they drank a little bit of the Kool-Aid on Drew Eubanks if they're expecting defense. Drew Eubanks is cool, but I'm not gonna lie. I watched his ass get fucking mollywopped in Portland this past season.
the goodness, Drew Eubanks.
True.
Yeah.
I think if they're able to retain a guy like Bismack Biyombo, I think that could be a step in the right direction to having some kind of insurance. But I think their whole season is kind of hinged on the fact of if they're able to find steady guard play with either Bradley Beal or Devin Booker as your distributor, and if DeAndre Ayton's gonna want to buy in. I think those are gonna be the two big questions.
I wouldn't also.
You think DA is still on the market?
I think so.
I think so too, but I also feel like I think the whole market's been stalled by the whole Dame thing.
Yeah,
You
100% it
know?
has. I think there's multiple teams trying to work out a multi-team
Yeah.
deal here. Whatever happens with Dame, I think there were a number of dominoes that fell. Obviously, one of the first bigger ones was Fred, and that kind of not screwed up, but it really let the dominoes fall for what the point guard market was going to look like,
Yeah.
especially because he was a highly touted free agent. And then you turn it around, and Dame goes, "Hey guys, I want out of Portland. Loyalty, loyalty. Right?
I'm running from the grind.
Throw that out the damn bag." Once he did that, it was like, okay, let's see where he lands and let's get an understanding, because yes, he could go to Miami, but I still would not call Miami my favorite. Even though they just made the finals, I get it. But like it's hard for me to sit here and say that Giannis getting injured, like, if he wasn't injured, that this team would not have made the finals this year. So I'm just going to put that out there and say, like, the Heat would still not be my favorites, because again, they're gonna like a lot of their future draft capital rotation players like Tyler Hero, who obviously wasn't a part of their playoff run this past year, but you'd have to let go of a guy like Kyle Lowry, who was so important to that team,
Yep.
having the success that it did. And so, like, you sit there and you go, okay, well, Miami is going to like cut and thin out their roster, similar to what Phoenix did, but they're going to be handicapped in terms of what they can do, because the rest of the market's already signed. So they're going to be guys that are going to be signing Ayo Dosunmu unless, like, obviously the Chicago Bulls match his contract, who are going to be signing the Terrence Rosses of the world and the Jalen Noels and the TJ Warrens.
Oh,
Like, that's what they're
yeah.
going to be signing, right? So, listen. Dame could go to Miami, but I don't think he's going to find the same success that he's envisioning there. This is also a plea that he should come to Toronto for Scotty Barnes, because I think if he does, I think the Toronto is a contending team. So I'm just going to say, I mean, listen, I would even say go to Philly. I think he'd have a better chance in Philly. So
I heard Joel and Pat are trying to like convince James Harden to rescind his request.
I mean, why wouldn't he? I mean, where is James gonna go?
I think
I actually don't know
I
where
think
he's gonna go.
he put all his chips into, I think, getting DeAndre Ayton traded. But then like how you said here earlier, Dame kind of threw a wrench in everything.
Hmm. Uh, This whole thing is interesting, man. The whole James Harden and Dame debacle, whatever is going on that side, is really screwing up the entire market. I just Phoenix has an opportunity to do something hilarious though. So they have something to do.
Get
They
three
have the
three
opportunity.
guards.
Oh my goodness, they have the opportunity to do something here. I mean, I think there are going to be teams in the market for DeAndre Ayton too. So I
if
just don't know if it's
if
at the level of the
by the
offer that they're
will of
looking for.
God, if there was some kind of Dame obviously gets to go to Miami, Tyler goes to whatever it is, DeAndre Ayton, I think in Portland would be really really nice. Because I mean, I don't know if you looked at any of the packages, but one of them I'm seeing, is for another disgruntled first overall pick. I think you put Ben in Portland, in a city that's way chiller than what
Mm,
Philadelphia or Philadelphia
Brooklyn.
or Brooklyn could ever be. I think he could like kind of start to get his mojo back a bit. We know Portland's a very chill city. I think they would welcome him with open arms. And when you look at the depth you'd be able to get out of a Dame trade, this is just my thing of saying that I don't the package that was proposed for Brooklyn I think was really nice. And there's just a lot of things that could happen. Obviously, we've seen that Joe Cronin is he's not quick to the gun kind of thing. So I think as much as the bulk of the off season's over, this could definitely drag out till like early September-ish for sure.
Yeah, we don't talk enough about how Brooklyn, about potentially being a player this offseason. I mean, I know they're not trading Mikal Bridges. They made him untouchable. They just re-signed Cam Johnson, but Spencer Dinwiddie, man, I think that guy's on the market too. So who knows?
That guy's always on the market, man.
Yeah, but I mean, can you think about it? I think him on Phoenix would be a really nice play too.
That could be nice. Ooh, yeah. Something structured around like a DA.
Bro- Brooklyn and Phoenix all over, making
My
another trade with
goodness,
each other
man.
again.
That
I think it has to
point,
be much TBD.
Matt Ishbia has Josiah on speed dial for sure.
100%, because both of them want to make splashes. I think they
Yeah,
both probably are trying to make something happen, but it is what it is.
100%. Do you have any other? This was supposed to be a whole underrated acquisition. Okay, anyways, do you
We
have
went
any?
we on it. We on a tangent.
Yeah, that's okay. It was still about ball. Do you have any other like underrated signings?
Jalen McDaniels, I think to Toronto was a nice
Yeah,
one. I think that's
that's a
just my
nice
bias
one.
one.
Yeah, Malik
Uh,
Beasley for me. But I think another one I want to touch on is that was our moment of bias for the pod for today. So it's out the way.
to
I think Georges Niang to Cleveland,
Cleveland, yeah, that's a good one.
and in tandem, maybe even Max Strus, but he kind of stopped showing up in the finals. If we're being keeping it 100, but I think Cleveland just really addressed their main problem, which was not only just the three or three both ways, so the small forward as well as like the 3-point shooting. And I think when you look at a guy like George Niang, he's not going to take any touches. He's not going to try to play hero ball. He's going to do his role and do it perfectly for the most part. And I think when you look at the size he brings, that's perfect for a backcourt that consists of two guys who are like 6'1" a piece. And you know, I think we're potentially looking at maybe a Jared Allen trade on the horizon as well. So I think that would even open up George playing even maybe a little bit of forward just to help with the spacing and all that. And I think just coming on a very team friendly deal and just again providing that spacing that the team really needs, I think is a great plus for what the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to look towards to build off of this season they just had.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. I like what they done this offseason. Georges Niang is a really good pickup for them.
Yeah,
Obviously that's something that they lacked. So, filling a hole.
100%. Let's proceed into the beginning of the playing of the basketball once the NBA finals are over. Summer League. Disclaimer. Summer League is not the be all end all. Both ways. Just because you a dog in Summer League doesn't mean you're a dog. And just because you shit the bed doesn't mean you're doomed. For example, Ruben, I'm going to give you 2 stat lines and you got to tell me who's who. So there's 21, 7, and 2 and 7, 3, and 4. Who do you think those 2 guys are? Here's my one like
I know the 7, 3, and 4 was Wemby.
no,
Was that his
this
first
is
game?
this doesn't include this year. These are older guys.
Oh, okay. These are older
Yeah, yeah.
guys.
Here's my one hint. Or yeah, okay.
Anthony Bennett had to be the first one, right?
No.
No?
Close. My first hint for the first guy is Fortnite, and
Jesus, Fortnite's not a great one.
and the second hint for the second guy is Nova. Now that one's a pretty big giveaway for sure. These guys were these guys are or were both New York Knickerbockers at one point.
Oh, so you're talking about Jalen Brunson?
Mm-hmm.
Was it 7, 3, and 4?
Yeah.
And the 21 guy had to have been Eddie Curry?
No. More recent than that.
Oh, okay. So we're talking about like last year or something, or like a recent player within the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Was a Knickerbocker.
Here's my last hint. This guy's not getting a second contract.
This guy's not getting a second contract?
Yeah.
Damn, like who am I thinking of now? Jesus.
I think they compared him to Scottie Pippen when he came out of college.
Oh my god, what the frick? Oh my god. This guy was drafted
top 10, I think. Let me confirm that.
Oh my god. I almost want to search it up now. I can't the name is on my tongue.
You could do it. He was drafted 9th.
What? It wasn't Obi, was it?
No. Before
No.
I think it might have been the year before Obi.
God, who did they oh my god. Who did they draft 9th the year before Obi?
This was the DeAndre Ayton and Luka draft.
Holy frick, dude. Oh my god. I have to search it up.
Yeah, Google it. The 2018 draft, 9th overall.
Oh my god. Oh my god. See how forgettable he was? Oh my god. That's crazy.
Kevin Knox,
man. Wow. Yeah. And it's because he was traded to Atlanta. Dude's not getting his second pick or second contract.
I think he ended his season in Portland, I think. And he kind of looked nice for a couple games, but anybody looks nice for a couple games when you give up on the season.
It's too bad it never worked out for him.
True. He has all the tools, but kind of ass.
He don't got the dog in him, like you said.
Dog in him. I do. You know when I knew it was over? So I said the Fortnite clue because I think that was his suit liner or whatever for his draft day suit. It was like the Fortnite logo or something.
Oh my god.
That's why
I didn't even know that.
This guy's gonna be a bum. Anyways, that's all to say. Summer League, I think you take everything with a grain of salt. For me personally, I like to, it's fun obviously to see a lot of like guys try to get into their bag, but I think for the most part, you want to see more things that are translatable towards like what their actual role would be, But just to kind of get right into it, let's talk about the big dogs. Wemby, very lackluster debut, but second game had a wonderful bounce back, I think. So, what are just some of the takeaways you got?
Game 1.
Yeah,
I think he was just nervous in game 1.
I mean, when you're looked at as like
the greatest prospect since LeBron James,
even ever to some people, I think there's only one way. Unless you drop like a 30 piece in your debut game, it's always going to look at as a downfall. But I think my big thing I've seen from Wemby's first two games is that I think this is a lot like how his rookie season is going to go. I think it's going to be a bit of a slow start just with like the speed of the game. You know, I think he overthought a lot of things in his first game, and I think that's just that's like his first time actually playing like NBA American rules, if that makes sense. Because obviously the Euro League, we all know like the big thing is obviously I think the defensive 3 seconds,
Yeah.
and having to get out the paint then duck back in. I think that's going to be his probably biggest learning curve, just to I think establishing a rhythm defensively. I mean, we've seen his length can what's the word? It can compensate for a lot of his deficiencies laterally, but I think that's his big thing he's gonna have to work on. Is I'm not expecting to obviously keep up with a guard or anything like that, but being able to have your not be having be not the not having to rely on things like your length as a crutch. I think you
Yeah.
still got to be able to stay in front of your man to an extent, but I think if there's anything, it's shown that he's generational in size as well as shot blocking prowess. And you know I think the team that's around him is very much set up for him to succeed. I think just when you look at like you know the playmaking Trey Jones is able to do, obviously coming from that line, and guys like Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson who don't necessarily need the ball to create in their hands. I'm excited, but I think we all
Yeah.
got to realize it's going to be a bit of a slow burn.
Yeah, I think JJ Redick said it on his podcast that I think that the defensive ability is going to translate right away.
Mm.
And I think offensively, he's going to take some time to grow because he's just simply not going to do some of the things he did with Met 92 that he's going to do in the NBA.
Yeah,
It's definitely not going to
the
happen.
thing, I don't think the tweed shit's ever gonna really work.
No, I mean, I guess there's to some extent, I think it'll work against certain players. Like I
True.
think
Well,
and we saw some of it in summer league as well that he's got actually quite a tight handle.
yeah, but we've
Um,
also seen guys like I think Kai Jones be able to pick his pocket. So I
yeah,
think he's just gonna have to mix up his shot diet, which he's obviously
yeah.
able to do. I think.
I think his yeah. I think he's got the 3 level ability. Again,
Mm.
it depends on how he reads the defense, and I think if there's one thing that's talked not. It's one thing that's not talked enough about Wemby is his basketball IQ.
Oh,
And so,
that and him being a willing passer. I think that was the thing I was
yeah,
most surprised by.
yeah, and I think his willingness is because of the fact that he's a guy that reads the game really well. So
Yeah,
I think Wemby will be fine.
no doubt. Brandon Miller, how have you felt? I mean, I don't know if you're able to catch this recent. This is his best summer league game he had today. 26-6 on pretty decent splits, I think. Yeah. 53, 50, and 100.
I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt that he'll be a better player in the league once he gets his 2 feet wet a little bit more.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, we've seen people call Trey Young a bust from summer league, and then he came out and look at how he is, right? So, I think Brandon Miller's that type of guy. I think he's got the ability. He certainly wants it too. I mean, he's got 3 level scoring prowess, and he's
Yeah.
got the size and the ability. So, I think he'll be fine. I mean, going through all the big dogs, I think most of them are going to be fine. To be honest, like you look at
Mm.
Scoot, like the Thompson twins. I mean, they're kind of all in the same boat. That I think I don't think any one of them are going to be like you look at them and go, I'm kind of worried. Brandon Miller is the one guy I looked at the initial start of summer league, and I said I might be worried about him, but he's got way too much talent and ability for it not to pan out. Unless like being in Charlotte is obviously the worst situation for him.
Mm.
So
If
you
there's
know,
one I am worried about, because I was listening to Pat Bev's podcast, and he was talking about how in every draft in the top 5, there's one bust.
yeah.
And I think when you're looking at this draft, I don't even think it'd be a bust because they're a bum. But I think the Osar Thompson pick I'm still very perplexed about, because you're expecting him to kind of be a bit of a lead guard in a sense. Ahmed obviously more, but Osar has doesn't really have a developed multi-level game. He has a bit of a off the dribble three, or off the dribble like midi, but be the guy when it comes to stretching the floor. That's not really his game. And I think when you're looking at Detroit's biggest needs, that's one of them. And,
Yeah.
so I think if there's any guy who's kind of, I don't want to even use the word bust because these guys haven't even played a real game yet. But if there's one guy I'm kind of putting a little bit of a question mark on, it's definitely him. But yeah, I mean, Scoot, oh my goodness. Prior to that shoulder injury, you can tell he just has such a mature way of looking at the game. Him and Wemby are both like very high IQ dudes. So,
Yeah.
I'm excited for when, I'm manifesting it. When we go watch Scoot and Anthony and Shaden cook, I'm excited.
Wow, that's gonna be so fun to watch Scoot and Shaden and Anthony. Like I'm so excited. And we already saw some of the highlights between
Oh
the
yeah.
two of them already.
The
So
two-man game is looking
it's
nice.
dirty.
Yeah.
It's dirty, dirty. Um, if there's someone in Summer League that I am not surprised by, to be honest, I just want to put that out there is I'll say this in general. I saw someone tweet this, and I fully agree. In Summer League, a lot of the times the initiators and guards are going to play really well in Summer League,
Yeah.
and specific types of bigs, guys who are often seen in drops, guys who just screen and roll, catch it off a lob, guys who are in the dump zone. Those are the kind of bigs that tend to be, um, you know, who tend to benefit from playing Summer League basketball. Guys who are like the Brandon Millers don't often get the opportunity to show out because the
Yeah.
basketball is rarely in their hands. We saw this with Grady Dick, and that's why you also saw it with a guy like Marquise Noel, who I think is going to be really good anyways. But like clearly, like this game is tailor made for those kind of players, and
Good
so,
point. Yeah.
um, yeah, I think I just would say like Marquise Noel for me, with everything that I just said, is all at his size and his ability is a super high IQ player, and we saw it in the college tournament too, right? Like
Oh
we
yeah.
saw it, in
Oh
March
my
Madness.
goodness.
Wow, like what a great pickup, and that's not even just a level of homerism. I just would have loved to see him on any team.
He just
Obviously, he's
has
big for Toronto, so
he just has every kind of tangible skill and mannerism and characteristic to be a dog.
mhm.
He's in that realm I'm just saying height wise, not necessarily like how they're gonna be. He's in the realm of an AI where it's like, thank God he wasn't 6'5". Yeah. Do you think
Yeah,
he makes like? Do you think he's on a two-way, right?
yeah, he's on two-way deal.
Do you think that it stays like that for the whole year, or do you think it potentially gets converted?
I think he gets converted at some point in the year.
Hmm.
Toronto's got a lot of issues with their roster in general, and they're trying to figure that out, especially with a guy like Jeff Doughton. But I think he gets converted. I think he absolutely does.
Yeah, and I think with your guys' new coach, I still can't pronounce the brother's name, but
Darko
he
Rajakovic.
yeah, I've heard he's very like he's not afraid to try new things, or he's
Mm-hmm.
not afraid to be outside the box with it. So, I think Marquise Noel's in a great position. Just to get a little more homer here, I've been kind of meh about the Bucks this summer league. I think Marjan Beauchamp's cool, but it's a lot of stuff. I mean, the brother he did a Giannis. He threw the ball off the backboard and caught it and ooped himself. So,
Yeah.
he's not going to be doing that in the game. Uh, what's Andre Johnson or Jackson? Yeah, Andre
Andrew
Jackson.
Jackson.
That dude that's definitely what our team needs. He's hustling. I remember the first summer league game, he had two back-to-back blocks on Peyton Watson, and I think he's everything that the Bucks need. It's just a matter of if he can help stretch the floor, because obviously with Giannis that's the main thing. He's the kind of guy I expect to see in kind of, if he's a closer, it's because he's locking up and they need some stops. So I'm not expecting him to do too much on the offensive side of the ball, but he's a guy that can get cuts. He's a guy that'll benefit from the kind of gravity that Giannis is able to generate. And I think he's gonna have to be a willing shooter at most. I'm not
Yep.
expecting him to be a knockdown 39, 40% kind of guy, but you gotta at least be willing. And I think he's more than willing at that. The other guy, Chris Livingston, he's cool, but it's a kind of similar build in you know archetype to Andre Jackson. I think Andre Jackson's just a little more refined, but just to get out of the homer bits, our personal faves, like how you mentioned, the guards are really tailored to this, and the guy I'm really enjoying to watch is Keontae George. I mean, 21, 4, and
Yes.
6 through both
Oh,
summer leagues, Utah as well as Vegas, and man, the fact that he's ninth, as well as the fact that he's playing behind, I think, the guy who he best mirrors right now in the league in Jordan Clarkson. A microwave can create a shot at any point, but also has a little bit of a playmaking bug. So I'm very excited for him to be able to just learn from Jordan Clarkson, little tools of trade and all that. Maybe he can start in the words of what Kobe told Jordan Clarkson, not necessarily going up to the rim like a light skin. So I think Keontae George is just in that whole, again, if we're talking about more winners, the Jazz have like a crazy, crazy good start to, really the first year of their rebuild in terms of being able to pick your players. So he's
yeah,
been a guy I've been, that dude's for real, for sure.
I agree. I said in our last spot that he's going to be a guy that I'm watching out for his
Mm.
career because he was obviously a guy on the Raptors' radar, and he's turning out to be solid, man. I mean, he's a 3-level scorer. He's got everything in his bag. With that being said, another guy I'm really loving right now is Cason Wallace. Cason
Oh,
Wallace in
yeah.
Oklahoma City, dude. This dude is balling.
Oh,
He
man.
looks awesome. He's got so much ability. I think the underrated part is his defensive prowess, right? His ability to get into passing lanes, stay up on
Yeah.
the offensive players, be the snake on the head of the snake defensively. Obviously, great shot. And he's got the ability to create his own as well. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think Mark Dagnall for sure is going to experiment with some three guard lineups with him, Giddy, and Shea.
that's gonna be so fun to watch. And they
Mm.
have the size to allow for that to happen,
Yeah.
right? Because Giddy's like what 6'8",
Yeah. 6'8", 6'7", maybe.
and SGA is like 6'6". So I mean, there's like these are guys who are 2 and 3 sizes, man. And you got a Case and Wallace, like that's gonna be really exciting. A lot extra playmaking on the floor is always a
Yeah.
plus.
Yeah. I mean, anytime you get comped to Drew Holiday, good things are going to happen. Another guy I
Hundred
want to
percent.
show some love to, you know, something about the Canadians, man. Leonard Miller. And the reason I point to
Yes.
him is I think, like how you mentioned, the guards look the best just because they're going to have the ball in their hands a lot. I think Leonard Miller's really showcased like a transitionable game. Like how I said earlier with Marjan Beauchamp, it's cool and all, but I know he's not going to be going into his bag. You know, Leonard Miller's getting his living in the flow of the offense, crashing the glass. He's showing that he has the ability and he's a willing shooter, which I think is a big plus. And man, like I said, I'm just so excited to see a defensive lineup with him and McDaniels together. That is going to be absolutely disgusting. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think as much as I'm so intrigued by the box scores, the thing that I'm really happy to see is like his game looks the most transitionable right now. It's not a whole lot of ball dribble 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 shot. He's getting his putbacks. He's getting second chance opportunities. He's really, again, his game is looking like something that would translate to what his actual role is going to be and how his opportunities are going to come about when it comes to like live games. So,
Like that a
mm,
lot.
mm.
I agree with that. One more I'm gonna throw out Anthony Black.
Oh, dude, that dude's for real. Oh
He's for
my
real.
goodness, holy, six
He's
seven.
real.
He's, oh my, that whole the magic, man. Low key, you know, we obviously would do this, Ruben. But if you were like a fresh, you had no alliances, no biases, no loyalties, the Magic are a team I'd heavily be down
Yeah.
with.
Yeah. I like their character, man. I like what they have. Paulo Banchero and Anthony Black, man. That's
Franz.
fun,
Franz.
Franz. Oh, that's fun. Oh my
Ooh,
gosh, that's so fun. Oh my goodness. But yeah, some good summer leagues, some good summer league showouts. It'll be interesting to see the rest of the week play out up
mhm.
until what is that? I would
I
say
think it
Monday. I
ends.
think it's the
Yeah,
championship.
yeah,
So it'll be interesting to see who really comes out on top and who else shows out. But those are some really good names so far. I mean,
100%.
fun to watch.
I'm just excited for this season to kick off. And
I know.
speaking of, before
Dude.
we get to that, the FIBA World Cup is coming up, and the Team US it's been announced for a little bit, but we haven't been able to talk about it on the pod. Let's just end off the let's end off this episode talking about how this roster's looking, how we're thinking about it, maybe even give a little bit of our ideas of how they fare against other teams, because I don't know if there's like other teams that have announced like 15-man rosters, but I think they got to cut that to 12. So
Yeah.
The USA's complete roster for the FIBA World Cup is Paulo Banchero, Italians are crying, Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton, Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram, Jaren Jackson Jr., Cameron Johnson, Walker Kessler, Bobby Portis, and Austin Reeves. I mean, first of all, you think this team can win it all? Of course they can, but you
Yeah.
know, who do you think could really? I'm curious. Who do you think is going to be like the top guy for this team?
I would have to say, hmm. At first glance, Brandon Ingram,
Hmm?
only because again you're playing international three, and Brandon Ingram has the size. He's got the 3 level scoring ability, and I think that's going to translate really well to um, the international game.
Yeah.
I would almost liken his ability to Carmelo's, and that's why Carmelo found so much success in the
Oh,
international
yeah,
game,
that's a good point.
right? Because again, Brandon Ingram's really good in between, and I think he's probably the best in between player out of everybody on this roster. And again, with a shortened three, that's a huge advantage for guys like that. Because you take a step out, they're already at the 3 line, and there's less space in the midi, so that allows for them to create coming into the 3 point line. There's a lot more space between half court and there, so defenses aren't as pressed up. And if they are trying to crash the paint, again, you're playing with a lot of really good spacing. So I think Brennan Ingram, in terms of offensively, I would say he's the top guy. I mean, if we're talking about captains, I would say Tyrese Halliburton's probably lead guy on that team.
Yeah. I think Bobby's definitely going to be a bit of the Draymond role for sure.
Yeah, I think he's gonna. Yeah, he's for sure gonna be that veteran guy in there. I think Jalen Brunson's gonna have a voice in that locker room. Definitely Josh Hart to some extent. So it's a really nice roster, man. Don't get me wrong. But this is definitely not near to the level that Team USA has come out with like over the past decade or so.
No doubt. But I mean, it just one obviously speaks to, the depth that the USA has. But another, I think, is not necessarily like a complete passing of the guard, but now I think the USA is really going to start to usher in this next generation of guys. I think, one guy I think could be on this team, minus all the controversy that's been up. Obviously, a guy like Jaw, but I think you're really starting to see this next generation of USA hoops start to take shape, and man, I'm excited.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'll
you would still hope to see the guys like I mean it is the World Cup only, but it
yeah,
would be
I
nice to
think
see guys like Tatum and whatnot
yeah,
there.
one maybe two of these guys would be on the Olympic team, and that's like a stretch even in itself, for sure.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
I
I
can
also
see
want to
Tyrese
I want
making
to
it.
hear Team Canada's, man. I've been peeping on that
Yeah.
FIBA page. I mean, that
Oh, you want to hear a hot take?
let's hear it.
I think if the players that we want to play for Team Canada this year is announced, they are by far better than the USA roster.
Oh, no doubt. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't know if all of them will play. From what I understand, Jamal, SGA, and Barrett have already bought in. Um, it's interest. It'll be interesting to see if Wiggins will play. Obviously, the younger Canadians like Mathurin, Shane Sharp. Um, from I understand, Boucher is reconsidering coming back to the program. So I mean that's really important. These guys, with Nick Nurse leaving, some guys are reconsidering and coming back. So
Mm.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Lou Dort, I think, is going to be a big part of this team if he ends up committing again.
Yeah, I believe he's going to be on the roster. Um, but Kelly Olynyk's there every year.
Oh yeah.
I understand Kojo. So you are still going to have at least 7 or 8 NBA players on this roster.
I hope I. Do you think any of like these young up and coming like rookies outside of like, yeah? Do you think any of these rookies like? Do you think Leonard Miller could potentially crack a spot?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I why can't they? I mean, I
True.
think it's the FIBA World Cup, so I think a number of them are going to be playing in a situation. I mean, if we're talking about Olympics, though, I mean, I think most of the top Canadian players are going to be playing for that roster. So,
Mm.
yeah, I think a guy like Leonard Miller could absolutely make it.
True. True. True.
Um,
True. True.
I'd be interested to know if a guy like Brandon Clark or Trey Lyles and those guys are going to play for Team
I hope
Canada. So
Trey
that'd be
plays.
interesting.
I feel like Brandon Clark is still probably going to focus on rehabbing for this upcoming season.
Yeah. All right, that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be nice to know if he'd buy in for the Olympics if they make it, which I think they will. But they've got a tough pool.
Mm. All right. Last thing to end off though, when you look at this team USA, who's your starting five?
Tyrese Halliburton, Jalen Brunson, Anthony Edwards, Brandon Ingram, Jaren Jackson Jr.
Yeah, that's pretty sound. I thought
Right?
it would be some kind of like dialogue, but yeah, I think that's a pretty
Austin
sound
Reeves,
starting fives.
Austin Reeves,
I'm
Cam
starting.
Johnson,
Let me get a little Austin Reeves,
Josh Hart,
Josh Hart, Cam
Cam Johnson.
Johnson,
You gotta say Bobby. I'm sorry, I gotta put Bobby
yeah,
in.
Bobby
Yeah,
Portis, Walker
Walker
Kessler.
Kessler.
Those other guys. Who the hell are these? Who the hell's Michael Bridges? Who
Yeah, yeah. Who
who's
the hell's Michael
who
Bridges?
the hell is Brandon Ingram or whatever? You know?
Bruh, that'd be so funny. I think if there's someone out of the starting lineup I said wouldn't start, it might be Jalen. Might play McCall
Mm.
just because
Yeah, I can
3D.
see Jalen be a bit more of like the second unit guy for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really nice team, man. They've got
Oh yeah.
size, they've got shooting, they've got defense, they've got inside presence. This is a team that's super athletic.
Oh
Like
my
I
god.
can't wait to watch Anthony Edwards in the open court with Tyrese. Like that's gonna
Oh
be
my
fun.
gosh. Yeah. Yes. 100%. You know who this team's missing though is we didn't get to talk about it or mention it is a certain Filipino wild boy.
Oh my god.
Hey, he's
Oh my god.
I mean, shoot. Maybe
Put him on the roster.
this is all a ploy to get him to play for the Philippines, man.
I think he will.
I want him to, man.
I think he will. I have a feeling we're talking about Jalen Green here, right?
Of course.
Yes. Okay. I have a feeling he will play for Philippines. I think that's probably the reason why he's not on here. One of the reasons. It's interesting. Scotty didn't want to play. Interesting. Anyways,
Maybe
I mean, there's a lot of
he's
guys. I
really
mean, they could go across the whole NBA and be like, "This guy didn't want to play. This guy didn't want to play." But I mean,
that guy Stephen Curry didn't want to lace him up.
yeah. LeBron James going into this 40th year of age doesn't want.
Doesn't want to represent his country.
Yeah. When you are asked to serve, you serve.
Shout out to Laurie Markkinen.
Laurie Markkinen.
I mean, this World Cup overall, I think is going to be so much fun to watch, and I think you're just seeing the growth of the game, not only from an international standpoint, but I think just the NBA fully realizing it as well. Because I think there's definitely going to be some kind of like some kind of way to where we're able to watch the games through the NBA or whatever it is. But I'm excited.
Me too. France.
I heard Wemby's not playing.
Yeah, I don't think he's playing. But can you
Yeah.
imagine if you saw Wemby, Joel, and Rudy Gobert on the floor?
Has there been any update on Joel's status for that?
I don't know. I don't think he's gonna play for the World Cup though.
Nah. But if he plays for France for the Olympics, oh my goodness.
That's a
Whew.
cheat code, man.
Whew.
That's a cheat code.
And you'll notice we didn't talk about the mid-season tournament because that stuff is ass.
Yeah, I don't know if I like that very much. I mean, I like the idea to make competitive basketball happen during like November and December,
Yeah.
but
I think the thing I
I
will
can't say I'm
give
a fan of.
them,
Let's see how it plays out this first season.
yeah, I like how the games, it doesn't add a significant amount of extra games. Like the fact that the games contribute to the 82 is probably a redeeming thing. But I think 500K is obviously life changing money to anybody else. But if you're
Yeah,
like a Russell Westbrook, actually, not Russ don't care about money. If you're a Russell Westbrook, a Stephen Curry, a LeBron James, $500,000, I don't know if it's really worth if you're looking for that Larry OB.
that's true.
And that
Yeah, I don't
trophy
know,
was
man.
weak, man. My goodness.
Yeah, that show like the NBA Cup, like, bro, you might as well just have like a day where it's just like I don't know, like another All Star game. I'd rather have that. I don't know.
That,
I'm not a
or
fan.
I just want to see. I don't think we'll ever have it because you'll never be able to get the top guys to play, or that could even be a way to showcase like the up and comers. But a ones tournament, man, that needs to happen. I don't care about this extra like extra game just to see the cup. But I will say I think Adam Silver mentioned it how traditions take time, and when you look at like the model they're following, I mean some football clubs have been together since like the 1800s. So
Yeah.
who knows what's to say what happens in like 20 or so years. But that's been another episode of the Blacktop Podcast. We appreciate y'all listening. Ruben, any last things to say?
Team Canada will wipe Team USA.
Hundities dundities. Stay safe, stay blessed. We'll see y'all soon.
Back shots, back shots.